As you can see, the backdrop is a little bit different. Over the last few days, I've been at the Checkmate studios in Hamburg recording a new DVD. Subject is Checkmate. I thought I'd go back to basics. And, well, I've had a lot of fun researching this, actually. And I think it is really worth studying checkmating patterns. You know, when you have these at your fingertips, then somehow calculation becomes so much simpler. So let me show you a few positions. These are a few kind of outtakes. I haven't actually, maybe, I can't remember whether I used this one on the DVD actually, but most of these are kind of extras that I didn't use. So let me show you a few of these nice mating patterns. If you want to kind of pause the video and try to work out the solution beforehand, that'd be great. You know, I'm not going to force you to do some work, but hey, you know, you might learn something. We learn by doing. So, first position. Hodgson against Paunovic, played in the London-Belgrade telex match in 1976. And Julian Hodgson, well, an old friend of mine, very, very talented player. And he played this when he was 12 or 13 years old, playing against the Dragon. And here he finished black off in style. How did he do it? Okay, are you ready for this? Here we go. Rook h8 check, and here black resigned. This is a sensational move. Nice bit of calculation. So let's have a look at king takes. Then this is the point. So we've dragged the king away from the protection of the f-pawn, and the king is now trapped on the h-file, and rook number 2 is about to swing over. And there's no defense to this. So, for example, if we take, give a check, and simply queen g6, and we take on h7 next. And if bishop h8, well, then the pin is available. This is rather sweet. So if king f8, obviously queen takes f7, and if bishop takes, queen takes, the king's got to go to the h-file, and once again, well, we have the same position actually. Very neat. I think this is the thing about, you know, when you have these mating ideas at your fingertips, then it really helps calculation. Okay, next position. Let me see, what can I fish up here? Okay, this one is pretty easy. Well, I mean, white has an overwhelming position. This was from the Sharjah Masters from this year, where I attended, was doing some commentary. So Stani from India, he's got a crushing position. How did he finish things off very quickly from here? If you want to just have a little think, pause the video if you like, and let's see what's coming next. Okay, first of all, he took on f6. That got recaptured, and then the game finished with rook f7. Here, black resigned. It's not complicated, but it's very neat. And I think, you know, finishing a game neatly and cleanly is very important. It can, you know, helps with technique. So if the king comes here, let's give a check on g6. And that's going to be mate pretty soon if we do that one. And queen h7. And if the king goes the other way, this is quite neat. I like this. So first of all, we'll give a check on h8. Rook's got to go back. Queen nips back to h5, and boom, very nice. There you go. Not so hard, but of course you have to foresee that a few moves in advance. Okay, what about this one? This was Georg Meyer against Andreas Heimann from the German Masters tournament, played in Dresden in August. Meyer has just given a check here. Now the question is, where would you move to? So you're to move, black to play. Where do you move the king? So you've got two choices, to e6 or to g5. What's best? If you want to just pause the vid for a moment and have a little think. Okay, here we go. Well, king e6 is best. I'm not saying this is wonderful for black, but you can at least fight on. You probably reach some ending like this. Of course, white can't take because that pawn goes home, but after this exchange, I mean, obviously white is doing extremely well here because black's king, well, you can't save this pawn. Good winning chances. Not over yet, though. You know, white still has to work in this position. But that would have been black's best. Instead, black played king g5. Now, hopefully, you've spotted this idea here. White played h4 check. And that lures the king to a poor square. Well, I mean, black can play any of these moves. Let's look at king h6 first. In this case, well, there's a couple of winning moves, but king g4 is very cool, followed by bishop g7. Very sweet. If king h5, then rook h7 is mate. And if king takes h4, as in the game, then bishop f6. And here black resigned because, well, it doesn't matter which way you go. Let's go here for fun. And that is checkmate. So, spotting these checkmating ideas quickly helps with calculation and helps with finishing off the game. But also, it helps with your defense. Black could have put up more resistance if he'd spotted h4 and played king e6 instead. Okay, next game. What have we got? Well, here's another one in an endgame. In fact, I've selected all endgames. It's not too difficult, this one. Again, played in the Sharjah Masters. I spotted a few games played there with checkmate. White to play. Of course, white is completely winning, but always helps to try and finish things off quickly. And white did that very nicely. Well, again, do pause the video and have a think. White played rook g4. Simple idea. He's going to play this knight either via e6 or e2 into f4 or g3, and that's checkmate. So the game went like this. Rook b7, knight e6, threatening knight f4 mate. So black played g5, but this was taken, and a couple of checks, and game over, because that's going to come on the next turn. So not difficult, but very neat. You know, it's good to be aware of these. Okay, let me give you another one. Now this is interesting. Another endgame. So again from the Sharjah Masters. So Benjamin Bok from the Netherlands playing with black. So he's a couple of pawns up, but you still got to put the game away. So have a little think. Do pause the video. What would you do with black here? Black to play. Well, Bok realised that actually in this position he could set up a mating attack. You know, very, very sharp. First of all, he switched the rook because he needs to get a check on the second rank. So he played rook here, hitting the bishop. So the bishop has got to move. I mean, it doesn't really matter where this bishop moves to. Black is going to play the same. So check. Now here's the problem. The king can't come up the board because there's a big fat check here winning a rook. So the king had to go back. And now black cruises in. And this is very well spotted, because actually the combination of king, knight and rook, we can set up a mating pattern. I mean, you could play king g3 here directly, king g3, knight f3. This is going to win with this threat and this threat. I mean, actually, Bok played rook c1 first. It's also very strong. And after this check, White resigned, because on the next turn we've got knight f3 and rook takes. So there we go. He understood, he recognized that there was a mate on the board, and that saved him a lot of trouble in finishing this game. Okay, let me see, what have I got? One final one. This is quite amusing. So this was from the German Bundesliga between, well, two strong players, Alexander Moiseyenko from Ukraine and Gerald Herdneck from Germany. Well, he's a grandmaster, decent player. He's not a professional any longer, but not a bad player. So Moiseyenko has white, and he has this extra pawn. But it's a little bit tricky, because if black manages to sacrifice his knight for the pawn, then you can see that this is the wrong coloured rook's pawn. So black could draw. So, well, bear that in mind over these next few moves. Herdneck played knight c3, which looks crazy, but if the knight remains here, the problem is that White will be able to move the king over, drive the knight away, and actually the pawn will just queen. So Herdneck forced the issue by playing knight c3. Now, if the pawn's protected, that's the point. He's going to give up the knight. So the pawn staggers on. And now here's Herdneck's idea. He wants to take the pawn. He still wants to take the pawn. And if White gets a queen, then that's just a draw. You win the queen. But this is a lovely under promotion. Moiseyenko played promoted, but to a knight. Now this is still tricky. So he's a bishop up, but still has to be careful. There's only one pawn on the board, and you know there's this potential that it's the wrong square, wrong coloured square. So let's see what happened. Moiseyenko moved the knight in. h4, you want to keep the pawn, and knight here. Is this going to be a draw? No. Moiseyenko has calculated perfectly. You might like to have a little think how you'd play this position with White. What do you do? He found a very good solution. Bishop here. He allowed his last pawn to be taken, but he's actually made sure that the black king is in a mating net. This is really good technique. Knight here threatens knight f7 mate. Now, the only way black can survive for the moment is to give up the knight. This was taken. Now, of course, this is a win, but with one pawn on the board, that gives White an extra possibility, which is that you can stalemate the king, and it's not stalemate because this pawn can still run down the board. But that means now that White can checkmate. Very, very nice technique. So there we go. It's worth studying our checkmates, having them at our fingertips. And this DVD should be coming out, well, I hope before Christmas. But of course, I will keep you all informed.